Hey guys, welcome back to Clever Coding. Today we're going to be talking about friend functions. Friend functions are a very important concept to know when you're starting object-oriented programming. So what basically friend functions do is that when we make our class, we create our blueprint, we have some members that are private and they cannot be accessed only through the member functions. So friend function is another function that is not part of the class, but it could act as a friend that could share the data and access or modify the private data, but with some restrictions. So if we look at friend function over here in Google, it says in object-oriented programming, a friend function that is a friend of a given class is a function that is given the same access as methods to the private and protected data, but it's not necessarily a part of the class. A friend function is declared by the class that is granting access, so friend functions are a part of the class interface like methods. So they have the ability to do the same things that functions do, the member functions do, or the methods do in class, and we give them the access rights. Now friend functions can come really handy, especially when you're doing operator overloading. So that is another concept in OOP, what we're going to discuss later on in our video series. So first jump into our dev C++ and we have our skeleton already created for us. So for this basic example, I'm going to be first creating a class for the object. So basically class is called let's see, we'll say distance, and we're gonna put inside some of the members. So we'll have private members, and the private member for it will have is as integer meters. So, and we're not gonna give any value. Once we created our private member as meters, now we go in our public section and we're gonna create a default constructor. So I'm gonna call it as the same name. That's how you use constructor. No parameter inside because it's a default, and it's gonna it has the rights to access the private members. The functions and the constructors inside the class are allowed to access. So we're gonna give it a value of 0. So meters has a value of 0 over here, and notice that if I didn't include this, the computer would could have gave any kind of random number from the range of integers. So after creating our distance function, we create another method which is called display meters, and we're not going to give anything into it, and we're just going to print out meters is, and print out the meter, and that's it, semicolon. Now after creating our structure, we include our friend function, and I want to demonstrate this by first getting inside of this access over here, public, and over here access control is public, and I'm inside the class. So I'm going to create this friend function by including the keyword friend, and then after that void, and I'm going to call it sum up. So I'm going to call it sum up, and I'm going to have some kind of parameter inside. So I'll say distance, and then I'm going to use this address of D. So I created a prototype, and we could call this as prototype, or we could call this as a signature. So we created a prototype friend function, and this is all what we want to do is that add some kind of particular value to the function. So after exiting this class, now we're gonna define our friend function here. So notice that this is not part of the class, but it acts as being part. So we'll say over here we don't include the friend keyword, and we just say sum up, and we include the logic for this. So distance, address of D, and we're gonna like increment it. So I'll say D dot meters is equal to D dot meter plus, and we'll increment it with 10. So now that we incremented it with 10, I want to go in the main function, and we could see that this is now not part of the function. It's out of the class, and it's only over here. And notice over here that friend could be included before the return type, or it could be included after the return type. Either way, it's gonna work. So for now on, for this video, I'm just gonna include it in the beginning just to demonstrate that it works. Now we're inside the main function, and now we're gonna create an object. So it's distance, and we'll call it D1. And now D1 will have, first, it's gonna display. So I want to show you that it has display meters. So I wanted to show you that it has it's gonna have the specified value over here, which is 0. My default constructor create initialized. So after that, we're gonna use our friend function. So we're gonna use a friend function just like basic functions we use in structured programming by just calling it the name of the function. So we know that the function name was sum up, and we just call that, and we just put it an object inside. So I put my object inside. So now it's gonna sum up to 10. So it has to display 10 after this. So I'm gonna say d1 dot display function, and it's gonna display this meters, and you're gonna see that they're gonna increment. So I'm gonna save this code as 82. And one more thing I wanted to do over here is that I want to include an end line, because I want the console to look a little bit more pretty and demonstrating. So I'm demonstrating this by executing, compiling, and run. Okay, now you can see that there is a problem here, that meter was not declared in this scope. And what we had over here was meters. Okay, so that was a bit wrong over here. I hope this works now. And now there is meter is equal to 0. Oh, I think I didn't save it. Save. Now execute, compile, and run. So you could see over here that the friend function worked, and first of all, it was by default 0. It was set to 0, and then I used my friend function to increment it to 10. So I hope you liked this video, and I hope you understood the possibilities of what we could do with friend functions. Later in this series, we're gonna use operator overloading, a concept to make more use out of friend functions. So see you next time.